Um, I'm Kim Knox. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of San Diego, and presenting with me today is Lori Thiel, our vice president. She's waving now. Um, we will be going through a few slides that explain what program planning is all about and how it works at the San Diego League. And then we'll be hearing 6 presentations about suggested items on which we should focus our local efforts over the 2-year period starting this July. If you have any questions, you can put a chat message to Lori and I, or you can use the raise hand function on Zoom to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order that they raise their hand. So I will pass it to Lori for our next slide. Oh, actually, sorry, I was going to do the mission one as well. I always like to start meetings of this league with our mission, and that is empowering voters and defending democracy. Now over to you, Lori. You're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say, as you all know, we do this historically. We've done this every year. We call it annual program planning. But starting this year, we all agreed that we would align our work and protocols with state and national. So starting this year, we're doing program planning every other year. And so the planning that we do tonight is going to be for 2025-27 versus 25-26 as we would have done previously.
Kim, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. So these are the ways that we take action. We do education. We publicize information through written materials, events, and meetings. We take people on tours, and we build and join coalitions with other nonprofit organizations that are working toward the same goals that we are. We do direct lobbying, which means we communicate with elected officials to propose, support, or oppose specific legislation. And we do grassroots lobbying to persuade the public to share our views on a particular legislation proposal. And at the League, we have a little saying that goes, we always speak with one voice. And that means that if the organization is going to take a stand on something, that the president or her designee is the one who speaks for the League. So no one else will go in front of city council and say, the League of Women Voters believes this or that. So we try to limit that to one person, and if she's not available, then she appoints someone else.
Sorry, you guys, I'm having some technical issues. I've got 2 screens going and I'm trying to swap between them, the both of them. So thanks for your patience. So just to give everybody kind of a sense of what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we do it, some of the things that we are going to talk about tonight, you know, as Kim said, later on in this program, we're going to be considering submissions that people have put forward to suggest ideas and issues for emphasis. And so we as a group and our members need to think about what we're doing and why, you know, what particular issues align with our mission, for example. So we need to just make sure that we're taking on issues that we are the most, I guess, valid organization to spearhead. We need to make sure that we have willing participants. So we need to make sure that there are enough members in our organization who also consider this a priority, that they're actually going to be willing to help generate activity and activism around it, you know, opportunities that we have and resources in our membership to leverage, you know, who we are, what our brand is, et cetera. And of course, we always, as Kim said before, one of the ways we get most success is through coalition building. So we always like to make sure that we have other organizations that are involved and participating so that we can coordinate with them and, you know, improve our opportunities for success.
So we wanted to talk about some of our advocacy outcomes over the last few years. In 2022, we played a major role in getting Measure B passed. That was on fair trash fees, which changed a 100-year-old policy in the city of San Diego, which made it so that only half of the residents got their trash services without being charged. And that's starting to come up in the news again as the time has gone by. It's now been 2.5 years since then, and they've completed some studies, and they're starting to decide what that fee is going to be. Also, in this most recent general election, Measure D, we signed the ballot pamphlet argument for the Ethics Commission reform, and that was a good governance measure to strengthen the independence of the City of San Diego's Ethics Commission by empowering it to control its investigations and resources without political interference. We don't always win, though. We have some losses. An example would be that we called on the sheriff to end ICE transfers and stop using resources to aid in the separation of families and deportation of community members. This is something that we've done every year for as long as I can remember. And the number of people that they transfer to ICE has been decreasing a lot, but they're still doing it. So we'll be putting pressure on them again in a couple of weeks.
Okay, another thing that we, Kim and I, whenever we do these talks, we always look for resources and visuals to help this group and our organization, you know, try to align, like I said, with state and local and make sure that our protocols and our activism is very similar to theirs. And so we actually found this particular graphic in, I think, the State League information and materials. So we thought this was a good one that kind of shows us, you know, how, like what, when we look at our mission and our, you know, value and goals, et cetera, and we look at opportunities to apply those values and priorities and positions, we can see in this Venn diagram, like what that looks like, you know, when you just try to suss out what we do and what matters to us, and then how we can actually activate it. You'll see in the Venn diagram that middle part is where we actually get a lot of traction when we're trying to do advocacy. And so that's what we're going to do tonight too. We're going to look at opportunities where we can align our work with our values and our policy priorities.
And this graphic is about planning for impact. So at the top, program planning and convention, or we call it annual meeting, feeds is where we get the ideas for issues for education and advocacy. And over on the left, it says bills, governor's agenda, and ballot measures. This came from the State League. That's why I mentioned the governor. But the point is that we have the opportunity to make impact on topics that elected officials are interested in that year, and things that are going to come up for vote that year. Over on the right side, you've got capacity and leadership. So we have no staff, but we have a lot of expertise, and we have volunteer interest in certain areas. We have the organization, and we all have a certain amount of time that we're willing to devote to things. So it's where all of those things intersect that we can have the most impact.
Okay, we always, I mean, despite what is going on in on the national scene, we at the League, we still value different perspectives, and we try to make sure that when we do activities like tonight, that we include perspectives from people who are going to necessarily perspectives from people who are going to be impacted. And the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion lens is what we try to look through whenever we try to make decisions around how we're going to be active and advocate for our community in San Diego.
This one's you, Lori.
Obviously, we can't do our work without volunteers. As Kim mentioned, and we mentioned earlier before, our resources include mostly people power. So when we look at opportunities for activism, we have to just make sure that we have enough people who are interested and have the time and freedom and expertise to participate and move forward with our activism.
And that's what makes us a grassroots organization. Okay, so the next slide is going to show ongoing advocacy, and we have Making Democracy Work, the Federal Judiciary Study, and immigration at the federal level, and at the state level, also Making Democracy Work, but housing and homelessness and climate change are two big issues, and then criminal justice and immigration are secondary issues. I also want to let you know that any league member can join a state interest group. So there are email lists and Zoom meetings that happen statewide on some of these topics. So if you are interested in participating on state level league work, you can let us know. You could even just reply to the Zoom confirmation email that you got today, and we'll send you the link to sign up for one of those email lists. So all these topics that you see under LWVC can be done at the state level. At the national level, there's an immigration one. And also on the local level, oh wait, sorry, that's from last year. Okay. Actually, that is, sorry. In the coming year, our events director is planning topics for events on political corruption / money in politics and on criminal justice. So these are all things that, regardless of what else we talk about today, these are all ready in the works.
Thanks, Kim. So as we had talked about before, we are currently working with other coalitions to get to advocate for issues that are important to us and that resonate with other members of our community. And so some of the ones that we are already active with are Democracy Dollars. We work with Common Cause, Engage San Diego, San Diegans for Justice, et cetera. And we also, as you all know, we're also working with environmental coalitions. So these last few slides are really just to kind of remind everybody and let everybody know we are already doing a lot of great work at the local and state level in areas that this organization and the state league have identified as really important issues for emphasis. And so a lot of the work is ongoing. It's centers on voting rights and other things that we are all very passionate about. So, just remember as we move forward tonight that there's already a lot of great work happening that we've been involved with for several years already.
We'll now hear from some of the people who suggested items. So these were all sent out in our newsletter. There was a link to the submissions folder so you could read everything that they told us about these, but we also want you to be able to hear directly from them and to be able to ask them questions. So we've set aside 5 minutes for each presentation and 2 minutes for Q&A. So we have Beryl first on the list. You ready, Beryl? Go ahead.
Ready. The Immigration and Deportation Committee continues to educate our members and the public. We have outside speakers at each monthly committee meeting and sponsor a general meeting every 2 years. For several years, we've taken volunteers to a migrant shelter in Tijuana once or twice a year and hosted a craft party and lunch for the children and families living in the shelter. The League of Women Voters of San Diego Budget Committee is recommending to the League Board that they stop this funding next year. Periodically, the Immigration and Deportation Committee sponsors a tour to shelters in Tijuana, to the Otay Mesa Detention Center, or to Border Patrol. This spring, we have a tour to Tijuana in May. We just had a general meeting on immigration, so I expect that we won't do a tour or general meeting next year, but the issue is not going away. In fact, it's front and center to national political action and is a major issue in elections. Since program planning is for 2 years, I recommend that in the 2026-27 league year that we sponsor another general meeting to give the public and members current and accurate information on immigration issues at that time. We may be able to sponsor a tour in that fiscal year as well. I'm done.
And just to give some background, Wendy is our events director this fiscal year and the next one. And she contacted all of our interest group chairs to ask them if they wanted to do a program in the upcoming year. And so Beryl is requesting one not for 25-26, but for 26-27. And our events director doesn't plan that far ahead. We don't even know who the events director will be then.
Well, I was told program planning is for the next 2 years.
It is. But I'm just
Okay.
saying I'm just saying that our interest group chairs, we've already planned the events that they want to do in 25-26. And we have not planned the ones for 26-27 because we don't have an events director for that yet. And so that's why Beryl is requesting this at this meeting. Are there any questions? Also, probably should be said that our events director has never denied an interest group chair who wanted to put on an event. It's typically something that happens just by request. So most likely it would go forward if that future events director received the request. It doesn't normally have to go through program planning. Ruth?
Thanks. Beryl, I'm just curious, what's the top issue? Is it protecting people that are already here and have asylum status, or is it immigration reform, or can you just explain a little more
Well,
about
the
your
whole
top
thing's
priorities?
done a 180, right, in the last 2 months.
Mhm.
You know, I'm trying to keep up with the changes and the court decisions and everything going on. And we're, focusing on that kind of thing right now. But heaven knows what'll happen by next year. It's very hard to predict. It's very hard to write a budget. So we've kind of switched from agencies that are helping immigrants because they've lost all their funding to, what can be done about all these executive orders.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Beryl before we move on? Okay, the next one is election reform, and Jeannie Brown wasn't able to be here, but I believe Wendy is speaking on her behalf. And Lori and I also submitted this with Jeannie, so we can help fill in anything that Wendy doesn't know.
And I'm counting on you, the two of you. Thank you for prefacing that. So this was submitted by Jeannie Brown, and the description of this particular topic is that election reform is a vital issue in today's political climate. So it is essential that we work toward expanding the electorate and ensuring that every voice is heard. We work on legislation and ballot measures designed to make our electoral system more accessible, fair, and representative for all citizens. What the League of Women Voters of San Diego can do is to work with organizations that support election reforms like campaign finance reform, proportional representation, and ranked choice voting. And in a moment, I'm going to say a little bit more about those subjects. It's needed because voting rights, as we've already kind of referred to the 180 that's happening, they've been under assault actually for longer than the last 100 days. And voter turnout and participation seems to be threatened. The people who have volunteered to be, so to speak, directors for this or help direct the process would be Jeannie Brown, Kim Knox, Lori Thiel, and the advocacy team. And now I'm going to switch once I figure out how I'm doing this, because you always forget. I want to get to my regular screen. And I'm there we go. There we go. So Jeannie wrote up some information. 3 potential ballot issues that is suggested to be worked on by the League is ranked choice voting, proportional ranked choice voting, and democracy dollars. Each of them will encourage more people to vote with confidence so that our voting systems are more fair, transparent, and inclusive. We know that our winner-take-all system of voting is unfair. Even if 51% of the electorate vote for one candidate, that leaves a lot of people whose votes are ignored. Ranked choice voting and proportional ranked choice voting allow for more people to get, if not their first choice for a candidate, then maybe their second or third choice. It has been demonstrated that this also allows for more moderate candidates to win and for less negative campaigning. We find that there are many potential candidates who are popular in their community, yet without the financial backing required in today's campaign landscape, they are unable to run and win. Democracy dollars is a type of public financing of elections. It makes it possible for qualified, competitive people to run and win without being beholden to outside or big money interests. There are 3 organizations that the League would work with. They are More Choice San Diego. Their emphasis is ranked choice voting. Voters' Voice, who is working towards the democracy dollars concept, and the Justice Workshop, who is actually working on a proposal for a few years from now for ranked choice voting and proportional ranked choice voting. The ranked choice and proportional ranked choice voting, in this case, the way it's perceived is that if this passes, ranked choice voting would be used to determine who wins the district city council seats. So that's a change versus majority with 1 vote per person. In addition, there would be 6 at-large city council seats. So 6 new city council seats. We as voters would vote for the top 6 people who would actually be running for these at-large seats. And the 6 people who get the most votes would then be at-large representatives. This would minimize potential bias from gerrymandering. And in theory, those 6 members would be looking at the best decisions for the city as a whole rather than what's best for their district. Often, these types of electoral changes are not popular with those who ran and win using the existing system. These changes would require a lot of grassroots work from our members. And if you vote for these, consider how you would be willing to help. If not going door to door, perhaps stuffing envelopes, providing financial help, or other ways that you could help this team. We would need a groundswell of support. Questions?
And we should note that those are all focused on the city of San Diego. We know not all of our members live in the city, but since it is a charter city, it has the ability to undertake some of these new forms of elections. It's exciting.
And a similar point that Jeannie wanted me to make is that as goes the city of San Diego, often goes other smaller municipalities.
Yes.
Errol.
Beryl, you're muted.
How is this being funded? Because it's my understanding the city would have to put quite a bit of money into it, which they don't seem to have right now.
Well, there's actually 3 different arms of this. And so ranked choice voting would not, from my perspective, and Kim, and I'm going to answer what I can. Kim and Lori can confirm or deny this, but ranked choice voting itself would not be any more expensive. Democracy dollars, the way that it's designed in other places, would be more expensive for the city because the general fund does usually provide those dollars for the citizens to give to their candidates of choice. The third one would be where we'd have more city council members, would be more expensive because you would have more overhead for offices and staff. Lori and Kim, did I miss something there?
Well, I would just add that we're really in the early planning stages of all of these, and so where the funding is coming for the planning is that the Justice Workshop has received a $300,000 grant to start off their work with the ranked choice voting for city council or for all city
What
offices.
justice? What justice?
Justice Workshop is the nonprofit arm of San Diegans for Justice. That's Andrea
Oh.
St. Julian's organization.
And so they're
So
going to work with
she's
you.
traveled all over the world observing elections, and she's traveled all over the country attending and speaking at conferences on elections. So I'm really excited about working with her on this.
Also, I'll just
Okay.
add regarding her particular idea. I mean, it's obviously not legislation yet, but it would include eliminating the primary, and that should free up some funds right there in terms of election spending. So that's another source of finances.
All right, we've got 3 hands up.
Yeah, I think Mary Lou's next.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for this. This is clearly very important. But I did want to question the issue of why it's needed is critical. Voting rights have been under assault and voter turnout is threatened or participation is threatened. But I'm concerned that this doesn't actually address those 2 issues, and we do need to address those 2 issues. So, for example, there's huge amount of Democrats who didn't vote in this year's federal election, and we don't really know why. And we need to know why to increase voter turnout. Also, not only are voting rights under assault, voting rights among women are under assault from our Congress. And so I don't know if we can address some of these voting rights issues under another one of these proposals, maybe under the democracy, whatever the other one is, because why it's needed is clearly the thing that's written here, but I don't know that election reform addresses those 2 issues. So what I'm advocating for is is this allowed? I don't know if it's under the other proposal. Maybe someone can clarify that, or if it's not, we do need somebody to address voter turnout and women's voting rights.
I can clarify some of that. So in the 2 cases where the ranked choice voting is one of the options or issues, initiatives, ranked choice voting has been shown to increase voter turnout, partly because it provides opportunities for voters to feel like they can that they have more options, more choices. So a lot of times people don't go to the polls, or they don't vote for like the top of the ticket because they think of it as that lesser of 2 evils, right? So they don't want to vote for either of those 2. So they just stay home. But ranked choice voting has been shown to bring people out to the polls because it broadens their opportunities, it broadens their choices, so they can vote for what might be otherwise known as an underdog, but still have an opportunity to show in an election. So that's why the two ranked choice voting initiatives address voter turnout and voter participation. Regarding the democracy dollars, that addresses politics, money in politics. And I think that also is one of those issues that people have problems with regarding, you know, how many people can run, how expensive it is to mount a campaign, et cetera. And that too should open the door for more people to participate in democracy as candidates, which should in turn enliven the voter turnout and participation in our elections.
Okay, I think we've already spent more than 5 + 2 minutes on this one, but I do want to get to Dana because she's had her hand up for a long time, and then we'll move forward.
Hold on, just real quick, Kim. I thought we had a discussion that the city of Chula Vista is also because, is it that they were going to look, because they're a charter city also, and they were going to look at ranked choice voting?
I did hear something about that.
So, because you mentioned this is all just for the
Yeah,
city of
so-
San Diego.
Okay, so good point that it could be in Chula Vista as well.
Okay, thank you.
Penny,
I
did you
have-
have a question on this one?
Did I? Yes.
Okay.
Did I hear you
Proceed.
correctly that they want to add 6 more council members? Is that correct? And if so,
Yes, so
how did
this
they
is probably
come up
not the
with-
best time to get into the nitty-gritty of the specific policy details because those weren't in my submission, in our submission. But just to quickly answer your question, yes, it would be to add 6 at-large council members.
Okay. And so there would just be 6 more added to it. Okay, well, that's interesting concept for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next up we have Ruth, Mary Lou, and Posey.
Hi, this is Mary Lou. I apologize, my video is not working. Let me know when my time starts. Ruth is here and we're here to answer any questions after we go through our slides. Tell me when you want me to start.
Sorry, you wanted to share your own slides?
Oh, no, I just want you to tell me when my time starts.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll start a timer right now.
Okay, thanks. Well, the reason this is an important local issue to work on is that the Tijuana River transboundary crisis has escalated into a public health emergency declared by both the San Diego City Council and the Board of Supervisors of San Diego County. It poses severe risks to water quality and community health in the San Diego region. The crisis is not limited to raw sewage. It now includes heavy metals, drugs, pesticides, and toxic chemicals. And alarming findings from recent studies indicate that these toxins have become airborne and are spreading beyond the river system and the ocean, affecting a much larger area than previously recognized. And based on a recent CDC assessment, most people living in the Imperial Beach border area have health concerns and symptoms associated with the Tijuana River contamination. The International Boundary and Water Commission wastewater treatment plant plays a critical role in managing this cross-border pollution, treating wastewater that would otherwise enter the river. But the treatment capacity has been overwhelmed by rapid growth in Tijuana. And there are frequent system failures and lack of maintenance leading to disrepair, sending raw sewage into the river. The Congress appropriated $300 million to mitigate these flows. And also last year, an additional $156 million. However, there's no ongoing funding for maintenance or expansion. And this is a critical issue for the health and safety of residents in the county of San Diego. So what could the League of Women Voters San Diego do? We can provide education, written materials, create an educational webpage, and sponsor events, which actually we've done previously, but we'll need to do more. Secondly, as was mentioned in program planning, we communicate with elected officials and also try to persuade the public. And we are a member of the Transboundary Pollution Coalition. We are an engaged partner, and we are proposing to become a dedicated partner. We have also looked into a pilot program for agenda monitoring of local agencies, of relevant local agencies, for issues related to the Tijuana River crisis, where the League of Women Voters positions support perhaps a letter so that we can provide a more early support of issues at those meetings. Why is this needed? This is a public health emergency affecting our community. Who will work on this? I want to add to the members of SEAC. We also, the coalition is part of SEAC, and the Water Committee is also interested in this issue. We have focused our EJ subcommittee on the Tijuana River, which Ruth is leading. Ruth is the representing us at the Transboundary Pollution Coalition, and is collected a group for the EJ subcommittee. So we feel like we're in a very good position right now to really increase our participation. And we feel like this is an important time for us to really focus in this area, especially in our local area. We are also trying to support SB 10, which is trying to use some money from an Otay border, passing some tolls there to help support maintenance. And we're working with the League of Women Voters California as they're evaluating supporting that measure. So that's in a nutshell. We feel like this is in line with all of our values, and we feel like we have the people, we have the time and the commitment to focus in this area.
All right. Thank you, Mary Lou. I see Beryl has her hand up.
So didn't I hear that Trump canceled the funding for this?
I'm sure Trump has canceled the funding for basically everything that the United States government does. What I do know is that the recent budget has decreased the $176 million in half. So what happens with that budget and with that money is another issue, which is why the SB 10 is so important, so that we can get money for the maintenance of this project. It's a very odd way to fund a wastewater treatment plant with congressional funding, a political congressional funding. It makes no sense, but that's how it is currently set up. And that's been very frustrating, I think, to our colleagues in government, but that's what we have. So yeah, it's always a concern that this becomes more a political issue rather than a public health issue.
Susan.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but the EPA recently said this was not an issue they were concerned about. It seems like, I don't know how many decades this has been going on, but it has to be one of the worst situations in the country.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Susan, I mean, it's a good question. It's very confusing what agencies are involved in what aspects of this, but the EPA was asked to, if this area could become one of these toxic waste study sites. It's sort of a cleanup site, if you will, for the EPA. And the EPA is saying they don't think it meets that criteria, largely because of the continued contamination. This is not a site where the contamination has stopped. This is a site where the contamination continues. So cleaning up a toxic site to have it only reoccur doesn't really make any sense. So that's what EPA is saying right now, if I understand it correctly. The second thing is ATSDR, which is part of CDC, is currently investigating this from the Agency for Toxic Disease and Waste Registry is what ATSDR is. But keep in mind, Kennedy just eliminated ATSDR from HHS. So along with just about every other public health function at CDC. So we're in kind of a massive crisis with public health right now, and it's going to affect us greatly.
I just would
Okay.
add that the EPA used data that was 6 years old for their study and their decision making, instead of using the most recent data that's just come out of San Diego State and UCSD.
Well, that's another problem, but if you keep dumping in an area, you know, you have to stop the intrusion of the contamination first before you clean it up. And that's makes sense, you know.
Okay, we're way past 2 minutes, but we do want to take Mary Catherine's question because she's had her hand up for a while.
Hi, hate to be pessimistic, but it's so hard to concentrate on anything requiring federal funding. But do we have an idea of what amount of money is actually needed? I mean, I assume there's a construction one and then a maintenance. Do we have an idea of that total sum?
You know, I think that my understanding, and Ruth, please jump in here, is that the money for the repair has, they feel, been received. The problem is ongoing maintenance and repair. That is a, you know, annual assessment and planning process, and that source of funding is less clear. Ruth, do you want to jump in?
Yeah,
Do we know how much it is or how much they want?
it's gonna,
There's no money for maintenance, which is why we're trying to get some of this money through SB 10.
well, and it's not just maintenance, it's also expansion. The 300 million has been received. The second 300 million that was passed just at the end of the Biden administration has been held up. But it's going to be, they need almost $900 million to do what really needs to be done, because the problem keeps increasing because Tijuana is growing so fast, and the infrastructure can't keep up.
So that would be another 300 million then, assuming this grant comes through.
600 million is what's needed.
600.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do need to move on because we have 3 more items to present, and it's already 7:15. So we're going to move to Jean Widener with expanded voter outreach.
So this is a project that the voter empowerment has taken on or is proposing for your consideration today. Excuse my voice, you can tell I have a cold. But so the description of our expanded voter outreach from the Speakers Bureau is it's affected by many factors, including confidence. And what we would like to do is increase our reach into the community for speaker talks on ballot measures, American democracy, and other topics. As you know, we have a robust Speakers Bureau that gives talks on during every election cycle on pros and cons of the ballots. But we have expressed, our Speakers Bureau has expressed an interest to continue educating the public about some of the challenges that are now facing our democracy, especially under the current administration, and particularly related to executive power overreach. So why we need this is our strategic goal is to expand our reputation as the leading nonpartisan source of reliable, fact-based voter information in the region. Many people, as well as the League's United National Chapter, are concerned about the erosion of our democracy under the current administration, and our community deserves to be informed of the issues that are causing these concerns. We have several members of the Speakers Bureau who have shown an interest in this. And Jane Andrews' Defending Democracy discussion group also is serving as a source of information for our presentations. Right now, we have had 6 requests for our new presentation that is titled Democracy in America, Understanding and Responding to Challenges. And we will be presenting this talk at our April 21st meeting. And we also have it scheduled now for at least 3 other presentations in May. So we would like for the league to be supported of this and perhaps allocate some money where we could hire a professional to train our speakers to be as effective as possible. And as well in terms of some budget some budget items would be for providing PowerPoint programs, as well as possibly a hybrid feature for holding Zoom as well as in-person events. I do also want to underscore, which came up earlier, I think Mary Lou made the comment. One of the things that we will be talking about is trying to educate the public on the SAVE Act, which is the voter registration act that is before Congress, as well as the executive document that was made earlier, about 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, that also includes many of the things in the SAVE Act, but actually expands it to actually giving the Department of Government Efficiency access to voter rolls and information. So if there are any questions about why we want to provide this for our community in the next couple of years, be happy to answer you. Ruth? Yeah.
No question, but I just want to comment that our participation in this Transboundary Coalition for Advocacy and Healing and our work on the Tijuana River has really increased the profile, the presence of the League in these South Bay communities that are typically have low voter turnout and have just been disenfranchised for a long time.
Okay,
That's great.
Yeah, we are now, we've reached out to the libraries, and we've also reached out to all of our hosts of previous Prop Talks. And we will be expanding our requests to other partner organizations that we're working with. But any that you can suggest, Ruth, would be great, especially in low voter turnout areas.
Sarah?
So my question is, and it may be that it's covered in what's being considered here, but would this also include opportunities to really educate people more about the importance of voting and what is involved in, registering to vote, and using your vote in a way that, would be useful for adults or young people that are coming, are just beginning to vote, because it seems like there's a lot of people that don't realize that you don't register to vote once in your life in some other state and you're registered, and may just not get the importance how important it is to vote. And so I don't know whether I know the Speakers Bureau, does Prop Talks and does other things, and I'm not familiar with everything, but it seems like that's a very important area for us to concentrate on.
Well, you're right, it's a very important area to concentrate on. One of the focus of this particular presentation that we developed is actually encouraging people to exercise their democratic rights and privileges by contacting their congressman and getting involved in town halls and other public forums where they can let their voice be known. But obviously, their voice also needs to be heard at the voting booth, and that is also obviously an important tenet of our democracy that they need to recognize they have to exercise that right. So I think that's a great idea, Sarah. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jean? Don't look like it. So we'll move to our next topic, which is Miles with affordable housing and homelessness.
Great, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So housing continues to be one of the biggest problems in California and in the San Diego region. As housing prices and rents continue to rise, disproportionate to income, problem only gets worse, and homelessness continues to grow, and we're seeing that. The strong likelihood of reduction and withdrawal of federal and state funding will only increase the pressure on local funds and worsen the continuing affordable housing shortage and further increase homelessness. The National League names housing as a basic human need, and our league's local adopted housing action plan has its first overall goal as the creation of a safe, affordable housing supply and livable communities for people of all incomes distributed throughout the region. The way in which we create affordable housing in the United States really needs to be completely rethought. The current incremental approach is a drop in the bucket relative to the overall need for affordable housing. And a lot of work is actually underway now to explore some alternative approaches. For example, at the state level, the Housing and Homelessness Committee, of which I'm a member, is exploring the concept of what's called social housing. Accordingly, the State League is sponsoring 3 webinars to educate League members on the topic, and I encourage our local members to sign up. Also, the San Luis Obispo League is sponsoring a webinar on this topic next Monday, and our local San Diego Housing and Homelessness Committee, which I co-chair with Mary Thompson, is currently exploring a webinar on educating league members on the basics of the housing problem and possible innovative ideas for addressing it. At our May Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting, we're having the Assistant Director of the Housing Policy Division of the State Department of Housing and Community Development come to address some possible policy options at the state level and to answer questions, and this will help us in planning our webinar. So thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Susan?
Yes. A lot of concern has been on developers and the prices that they charge for housing. But a few years ago, I read that just within the city of San Diego, permits for a single family home were like $15,000 to $20,000. I'm sure that's gone up. Would you look at things that the state and local governments are doing that make affordable housing impossible?
Yeah, there's a lot of work being done now at both the state and local levels to reduce permitting costs and also the time involved to get permits approved. And there've been a number of bills passed at the state level to facilitate that. And the city of San Diego has been very aggressive in reducing processing times, but I don't think they've been as aggressive in bringing fees down. So
I think, yeah, I think they get funding for their campaigns that makes them not really want to do that. And I've been following the horribleness of what's going on in Los Angeles and how few people have been able to pull the permits to rebuild their homes.
yeah, developers have always been a significant source of campaign contributions for a long, long time.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Susan and Miles. Mary Catherine?
You're muted.
Mute. Another kind of ugly side of this issue, though, is kind of what the developers have been doing to take advantage. For example, in Point Loma, they're proposing this four-story thing with no parking, and there's about 3 affordable units in the whole big monster thing. And then there's one in Pacific Beach that way. Will you consider that kind of issue in terms of we need housing, but what the developers are doing is taking advantage of the need and putting up grossly unacceptable projects that are both ugly and out of place and no parking? To me, that's a whole nother side of it's complicating the homelessness, that we need more housing, but they are taking advantage and doing crap in the name of very little affordable housing.
Well, the city of San Diego has been very aggressive about trying to promote as many housing units as possible, and that so the developers are taking advantage of those rules which are in place, including minimum or no parking. And that's part of the conversation that needs to be had about rethinking the way that we do affordable housing, because as you say, those projects include just a trickle of affordable units, and in no way address the real needs. So the whole process, the whole approach, I think, really needs to be rethought. But that's a national and state conversation. It's going to take some time to build support for doing something like that.
But somehow I think this ought to be part, if you're going to do this, that this be injected into the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I couldn't agree more.
affecting a lot of people's concept of
Mhm.
this issue.
All right, thank you. I want to give Penny a chance to weigh in.
I just have a question. Another huge issue that's come forward, especially with the floods and the fires, and insurance. And the insurance companies are jacking up their rates way up. And I don't know if it's required, but people are going to have a lot of issue if they rebuild or have places or just have a house now of their insurance rates going way up. So I don't know if that's an issue in any way you're addressing.
Yeah, that's another aspect of the problem, and
Yeah.
insurance is only going to go up, particularly if you're in a fire-prone
Yep.
area, and the
flooded.
state just came up with updated maps on that. So yes, but I think the whole approach really needs to be rethought, though.
Mhm.
Okay, our sixth and final topic is mine. So if we could go to the next slide, Lori. This is a campaign finance dashboard. And what we would do is publish a dashboard of local campaign finance information, which would show who is funding local campaigns and the independent expenditure committees that are active in those campaigns. If needed, we would ask cities to make the data more available so that we could easily import it. And this is needed because of transparency. Voters have the right to know who is raising money for which political candidates, how much money they're raising, and how that money is being spent. So as many of you know, Julianne C. is our Vote 411 coordinator. And I've spoken to her about this, and we both think that this would be a great project for our league. We could train volunteers on how to get this information off the websites of the various cities and import it into our dashboard. So I'm going to share my screen. If you could take yours down, Lori, I'm going to show you what the League of Alameda has done, and they're going to be sharing with us their procedure, and so that we could replicate this here. So this was for the last general election. These are the names of their city council candidates on the left here. And the blue bars show money that they got came from Alameda. Green is money from other parts of California, and this little bit of yellow at the ends here and here are from outside California. This candidate, Slauson, has 2 stars by their name because they pledged to raise less than $2,000 and they don't have to file these forms. So the next chart here is campaign contributions by type. So the blue is individuals, and the orange is business, the green is union, and the yellow is political. This looks at campaign contributions by size. So the blue is under $100, the green is $100 to $999, and the yellow is $1,000 plus. This shows the amount spent per vote received. So Bowler spent over $4 per vote received, and you can't even see Slauson because it's so low. But as you can see, the others are closer to $1, $2. So a lot of spending there. This also shows who contributed more than $1,000. So it's the names of individuals, of unions, etc. So you can see that they gave, this Bowler got a lot of big donations. Pryor got 5 medium-sized ones. Slauson didn't get any. And Spencer got 3. You can see how much money they raised versus how much they loaned themselves. And then the independent expenditures, there was a political action committee put together by the Alameda firefighters who gave to 2 of the candidates to support 2 of the candidates. And the Coalition for Patient Access and Innovation dumped almost $65,000 into this little city council race to oppose Trish Spencer. This also talks about the loans, and then it goes into the school board contributions. So it gives you an idea of what a campaign dashboard would look like. And we think that it would be very helpful to voters to be able to have this kind of information when they're making their decisions at the ballot box. I'll take questions now. Go ahead, Miles.
Thanks. So this looks like it would be very useful, and certainly in the public interest to do it. My question, though, is this looks like it's also going to require a tremendous amount of person power to pull all of this together and compile all of this. How would that actually be done?
So the person who runs this in Alameda has offered to train us on how to do it. They're going to give us a demo in the next week. So we'll find out very soon. But we think that just the way that Julianne has trained her team to gather information for Vote 411, it will be very similar. The way that we would train people to gather this information, and we would create these graphs were all created in Excel. So
do you have any idea how many volunteers they use in Alameda?
No, that's a good question. I'll ask. Cheryl?
So is any of this on 411?
Not that I know of. We did have, when we were using Voters Edge, we had some campaign finance information, and Julianne was really disappointed about that not being in Vote 411.
Yeah.
So this would be a way to bring it to our local community. Mary Catherine? Oh, you need to unmute.
Big question, of course, is in the PACs. who is really behind the PACs? What does that $64,000 contribution signify? Is there any way of getting at that these days?
Not that I know of. I mean, it's certainly not in the documents that this information comes from, which are posted on the city or county website. It's a standardized form that asks how much money was received and when and from whom. So that probably would not be a part of this.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so that completes our presentations, and the next steps will be that the board will discuss proposed issues and vote on a recommended program. At the annual meeting on May 28th, members will vote on recommended and non-recommended items. And the adopted items will receive focus in the 2-year period beginning July 2025. So the annual meeting will be in person this year at Elijah's Restaurant on May 28, as we've said. And also you should know that the date of determination is May 16th. So you need to be a member. If you're not already a member, you need to join by May 16. If you are, and you have your renewal date coming up, you should take care of that promptly. Anything else, Lori?
No, I think that covers all the information that we received and the submissions, et cetera.
Penny? You're muted.
You're muted, Penny.
Okay, sorry. 2 years is a long period of time and other issues come up that become very important. Is there no way in this next 2 years that if certain issues come up and appear to be quite significant or important that we can bring them up? I mean, I did not bring up because the whole issue, which is ongoing, which is the cost of childcare, which is extremely high, and I think it may be a national issue. But if this becomes a bigger issue, it may be something we relook at as something we want to support. So I'm just curious, you know, I understand 2 years, but I don't because it doesn't allow things that pop up in the next year to come forward as significant issues that we want to look at.
Yes, so every year things come up that we have not planned for, and the board and the advocacy team uses whatever available time and resources they have to address those things. And every year we take on dozens of things that are not on this list. So we do our best.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
I just wondered, do you have a number of proposed issues, a limit on the recommended program number of issues, or is this just based on merit?
There's no limit in the bylaws.
Okay.
Well, should you explain that you put all the issues in the annual meeting packet, but the non-recommended ones take a larger vote?
Yes, the non-recommended items need greater than 50% of the annual meeting attendees to vote that they would be considered. And then for them to be adopted, they need a 3/5 vote. Okay, that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for participating. The video will be put on our website so that those who weren't able to attend will be able to watch it. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Good to see you all. Bye-bye.